Hey guys, another video for our how to do stuff in Japan playlist. It's another heads up video and also what not to do video. So we talked in previous videos about people focusing on maintaining the harmony in Japan and about what great actors a lot of Japanese or most Japanese people are at hiding their true emotions and maintaining a happy outward image, you know. Looking, everything's good, everything's rosy in the garden, happy smiles all around, hiding any negative feelings. And that's generally the case. And angry people or grumpy people or any sort of negativity at all is really, really rare. So usually you don't see it or hear it. So in some countries, you know, if you go out into a busy city and spend a day in a busy city driving the car and parking and going to a bank and a post office and somewhere else, you're likely to encounter or hear some sort of grumpiness, you know, maybe a bit of road rage or somebody being grumpy at the staff in the bank or the post office, or, you know, people, some sort of negativity or grumpiness, people arguing with each other in a restaurant, or, you know, there'll be some sort of negativity probably, won't there, during the day. However, in Japan, you can go really long periods of time, days or weeks or months, depending on where you're living, where you're going. I'm trying to kill a mosquito while I'm talking to you. Got him? No, I didn't. So you could go for long periods of time without experiencing any sort of aggression or negativity or grumpiness at all, right? Which is fantastic, right? And that whole maintaining the harmony thing, and often when we speak about that and what's involved in maintaining the harmony, a lot of people that watch the video don't like it. They go, oh, that's all very fake and hiding your real feelings and you know, not saying what you're thinking and not asking why and not, you know, all that stuff, you know, that's not real and that's bad, and a lot of people see the negative side in all that stuff. But the goal is harmony, and that is the result, and generally in Japan that's what you're surrounded by, is harmonious living. You know, you very rarely encounter road rage when you're driving in the car, or aggression of any sort when driving in the car. You know, people cutting you off or doing anything aggressive at all is really, really rare. Usually everybody's saying after you, you know. If you hear someone hit the horn, usually it's someone saying here, after you, you know, letting you in. Usually, it depends on where you are. I mean, the center of Tokyo can be a different experience. You know, the center of any of the big cities, you can experience a bit more. But usually, in usual day-to-day life in Japan, you sort of don't experience it. You don't hear people getting grumpy. You go to restaurants, everybody's very careful to be quiet and considerate of other people, and it's great, you know. So most of the time, you very, very rarely encounter any sort of aggression or grumpiness. When you're hanging out with other people, you know, friends or parents of other kids or co-workers or other people, any other people that you might be spending time with in your life, it's usually the same. They don't, you know, any sort of negativity or unhappiness or anything like that. It's usually hidden well away and you don't experience it. So now I've sort of painted that scene. Imagine that thing, day after day, everything's harmonious, you don't hear any grumpy voices or raised voices or any sort of aggression or any sort of anger. Everything's really calm and harmonious most of the time, right? Which makes it doubly or 100 times more disturbing and surprising when someone explodes. And that's what happens. That's occasionally, very occasionally, that's what will happen. And it blows you away, and because usually you've got no idea it's coming, and because what it is people are hiding away their emotions, and some people can do that forever and they'll never explode. You'll never hear them explode, you'll never see them explode, right? But occasionally someone can't take it anymore and they'll explode, right? Just sadly yesterday in Tokyo, a guy exploded and ran around with a knife in a train in a train in Tokyo and stabbed a whole heap of people. That's a sort of an extreme example of exploding person in Japan. I mean, and that's pretty rare. You guys probably do hear about it now and again. I mean, that's happened before. There was a guy in Tokyo with a machete a few years ago. There was one with a car couple of years ago too, in Tokyo, lost it and started running down people with his car. So it does happen occasionally. It does happen when someone explodes like that. That's sort of an extreme example. Our chances of encountering that firsthand is really, really remote, of course, because 127 million people in Japan, and those sort of violent explosions like that are pretty rare. So our chances of experiencing that as an individual in Japan is really, really, really remote. What this video is really about is more the examples that we might experience. So, give you some examples. One is there's around where we live. There's lots of very, very narrow streets, right? And two cars can't pass each other. You know, you have one of you has to pull off to the side somewhere and let the other one pass. You know, or back up. And sometimes it can be frustrating because you know you're trying to get somewhere, you're late, and you got to keep backing up. Because, you know, a car comes, so you back up and you let it go through, and then you start to go, and then another car comes and you back up and you let it go through, and it can be frustrating when you're late, you know. And there was a lady, there's a kindergarten just down the road from us, and there was a lady that goes there every day, and she's obviously, this has been building on her, and her driving skill is probably not the best, we've noticed. She struggles. If she has to back up, she really struggles with it. And one day she totally lost it, and I didn't experience it myself. My wife experienced it and came home and told me, and that was probably a couple of years ago. And since then, she's been quietly labelled the crazy lady, right? Because she totally lost it, right? And there's no forgiveness, you know. In some of our societies, you know, if you lose it one day, you know, just can't take it anymore and go, fuck, you know, and fucking, no, money, blah, 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 you know. And then, you know, the next day you go back to work again and you say to your co-workers, oh, look, really sorry about yesterday, you know, I've been really stressed out and, you know, I just really lost it, I'm really, really sorry. And in most of our societies, people go, oh, it's okay, you know, don't worry about it, because they've experienced the same thing themselves, and that explosion thing is not so uncommon, right? And we're sort of, there's an ambient grumpy level in a lot of other societies where you know, grumpiness or anger is not a rare occurrence. So when someone loses and go, oh fuck, you know, the next day they go, oh look, I'm really sorry, and you go, oh, don't worry about it, doesn't matter, and you move on and forget about it, right? But in Japan it's really different. In Japan, because everyone's focusing on maintaining the harmony, if you really lose it like that lady did, and she really ranted apparently at the other mothers, and she was just carrying on about just the driving thing, and that's it. She's labelled then, you know, and because they're too polite to say it to each other, but there's ways that it's sort of, oh her, you know, oh her, you know, and they don't say the crazy lady, but you know, it's sort of an unspoken thing. They know she lost it, and that's it then, and she's labelled forever, you know. And you know, another example, I used to go to a Kyudo dojo and do Kyudo, Japanese archery, and because that's a really harmonious place, right? That's a style of Zen meditation, that whole archery thing. So it's all about Zen and harmony, right? And one night, this old guy came in the dojo, and something set him off. He'd read something. There was something written down somewhere that he read, and he went off. He absolutely went off and absolutely ranted and raved and rah, 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 and went out the door and slammed the door behind him. And I've actually mentioned this one in a previous video, because what I would have talked about is the reaction of the other people. Nobody said a word. Everybody just continued doing what they were doing. So the people who were doing the archery continued to do it. The people who were sitting at the table drinking tea continued to do it, and just continued to do whatever they'd been doing before he'd walked in the dojo. And nobody said a word about it. Nobody said anything about him losing it, or no one said a word. And that's another important thing. So in these stories, the most important thing for us is, first of all, if you can, don't lose it, right? Don't explode. Now, someone actually asked recently on a video, how do you know all this stuff? You know, or actually, was it on Patreon? someone commented on Patreon and asked me, how do you know all this stuff? This stuff's really useful. How do you know all this stuff? The stuff I tell you about is usually based on the mistakes I've already made, right? And because if you make a mistake in Japan, and eventually you'll either see the results straight away, or sometimes you'll see the result of your mistake somewhere down the track, right? But eventually you'll see the result of your mistake and go, oh shit, that was a mistake, right? And I'll point out too, one more thing too, that the things that I've talked about in these how-to videos, it doesn't mean that I don't continue to make the same mistakes, right? So this video is about exploding, and I'm about to talk to you about don't explode in Japan. But for sure, I have exploded in Japan before, and I'll probably explode again. And I know full well it's a really, really bad mistake. It's a really, really bad mistake. And I know that because I've done it, right? And I've seen other people do it, and I've seen the results of other people doing it, And you don't get forgiven. They're really unforgiving about it. It's like, oh, right, okay, now I see what you really like. That's sort of the reaction you get. Oh, now I see what you really like. So the one I'm thinking about for myself is I exploded at the post office once. Some of you might remember we used to sell some stuff on eBay. I used to have to go to the post office to send it around the world. And I've talked about this with patience and, allowing lots of time and the faffing and all the rest of it. But even though you're aware of it, it gets you when you're at a weak moment, or when you're tired, or when you've just had a series of stupid things happen, or, they wear you down. And I did explode at the post office once. And two, the other thing worth mentioning, exploding in Japan can be a lot less dramatic than you might imagine in another country, right? So what might be considered, when I'm talking about these people exploding, if you actually saw it, you might go, oh, that's not so bad. That's not so bad. I mean, I wasn't swearing and yelling and abusing people in the post office. What it was I wasn't hiding my emotion. And that from their point of view, that's not much different from ranting and raving and screaming, right? So their idea of not good behaviour can just be showing that you're frustrated and you're pissed off, and you might not raise your voice, you might not swear, you might not be sort of aggressive, but just being pissed off from their point of view is not good, right? If you're doing anything other than smiling and being patient and nice, if you're doing anything other than that, then you're not being good, are you? You're not, from their point of view, you're not maintaining the harmony, And then what happens then if you get pissed off? Why? And at the post office, my example of myself was like, what? Why would I have to do that when I've already done this, and I've already filled out that, and I've done this, and why couldn't you? And that sort of reaction, and because their reaction to that, and I've talked about this before, is to smile and laugh, which is the last thing you want when you've run out of patience and you're getting pissed off. The last thing you want is for the staff to be smiling and laughing at you, right? As I'm telling you this, I'm remembering another one from a long time ago in a bank. I was trying to get something done in a bank a long time ago. I can't remember what it was, but it was such a big deal, and they're faffing and they're asking other people and they're walking around in circles and they're carrying on, and 20 minutes later, and I can't remember what it was that I was trying to get done, but it wasn't difficult, but it was important for me. And I remember the same thing, and I remember getting really pissed off and saying to them, well, this is ridiculous, you're wasting time and rah. And they laugh. They smile and they laugh and ha 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 ha, and that's the Japanese reaction to people exploding. And it's not a laughing at you type situation, they're laughing at the situation. It's their way to relieve the tension, and try to return to harmony, right? That's their thing. But for some of us, from some of our cultures, when you're really pissed off and frustrated and the staff are laughing, right, that's the last thing we want, isn't it? And that tends to set us off even more. But we have to try and remember when that's happening that's just their reaction to the tension, and they're trying to relieve the tension. So So the first thing is other people exploding. It'll blow you away when it happens, because you go for months without hearing any raised voices or anybody being grumpy or anything else, and suddenly you get some guy, I had a guy lose it in the traffic once, and everyone was being cool and harmonious, and suddenly this guy's roaring backwards and forwards through the traffic, sort of almost hitting cars. He totally lost it. He totally lost it. He was one step down from the guy with the knife, right? You know, he's just about bouncing off other cars. He'd lost it so much. And it just blows you away. It just blows you away, because, you know, you guys have seen all these driving videos. You never see aggression in the traffic, you know? And then suddenly this guy loses it, and he's cutting in and out of all the cars, almost hitting other cars and hitting his horn and forcing his way through, you know? And it blows you away, because, you know, same as with the guy in the Dodger raising his voice and yelling. It blows you away, which means when we do it, if we do it, it blows everybody around us away. And anybody that's close to us, if someone that your co-worker or in your family or neighbours or in your group or anybody that's associated with you will be really shattered and probably embarrassed if other people hear it, and it'll label you. It'll label you, and it's really hard to come back from that. They treat you really differently. If they've seen you react to something emotionally, sometimes you might hear, if it's a public thing, you might hear somebody say, Tashkani, of course, a foreigner. Of course, a foreigner, because foreigners are famous for losing their shit, you know, for showing their emotions. And so, of course, foreigner losing his patience, you know, and it's hard to come back from that. It really is hard to come back from that. The only thing first piece of advice would be, or first suggestion would be, don't lose your shit, right? Don't explode. As hard as it is, it's so hard. It is really hard. It's really hard. I can't do it, okay? I can do it less. I can endeavour to do it less than I used to, you know, and I can endeavour to try and by this I mean that you're frustrated and pissed off and the faffing's ridiculous and it's doing your head in, but you're still smiling and going, oh, thank you very much, arigato onegaishimasu, please do that for me, you know, and that's what I mean by being good, you know, not going, oh, for God's sake, you know, not that's their idea of exploding if you're doing stuff like that, you know, and if there's people around you, like your family members or friends or anybody, they'll be really embarrassed. So you just got to keep cool and keep smiling. So the first piece of advice is stay cool, keep smiling, you know, keep smiling and keep being nice and keep being cool and polite, and just keep it in. Take a deep breath, keep it in. The second piece of advice is, if you don't follow the first piece of advice, if you do get a bit grumpy with somebody or you do get a bit frustrated and show some negative emotion or anything like that, don't bring it up again. So in some of our societies, the next day we might say, oh, look, really sorry about yesterday, you know. It's better not to, because their feeling is that having experienced it once when you got grumpy, or when somebody got grumpy, having experienced it once and upsetting the harmony that once, if you raise it again the next day or 2 days later or a week later, and you raise it again and say, I'm really sorry about the other day, you're basically making them relive it. So that you're upsetting the harmony again, right, by talking about it again. And in some of our societies, that's the right thing to do, right? Oh, listen, sorry about yesterday. I was a bit stressed out, you know, I was a bit of a dickhead. Oh, it's all right, don't worry about it, you know. But it's better not to here. It's better just be good. If you've let your guard down a bit and shown a bit of negative emotion and sort of upset the harmony a bit, the best thing is just do your best not to do it again. So when you see those people again, just be really nice. So when I went back to the post office the next time, I was just really relaxed and happy and calm and try to just, you know, be cool, so that they go, oh, he's being good today, you know, he's being okay today. That's the best thing to do, rather than go to say, oh, look, sorry about the last time I was here. That just reminds them then of what it was like, and it upsets the harmony again. So sort of two parts to this video. It's first of all us experiencing other people exploding, And what a shock it is when it happens, because you're just so not used to it. You know, you can go weeks, months here without hearing anything, any sort of drama. You know, you're driving around in the car, it's really harmonious. I've had visitors from Australia comment when we're driving on the highway to, you know, go to Kyoto, and, you know, we drive around Kyoto and go see some temples and shrines, and, you know, drive back to home again, and they'll say, you know, it's so calm driving on the roads here, and it really is. And then you go supermarkets, shopping centres, department stores, wherever you go, train stations, busy train stations, Central Nagoya train station, you know, millions of people passing through there, but it's pretty harmonious. You know, you don't hear raised voices, you don't hear any sort of dramas, it's all pretty cool, you know, and just day in, day out, all this calm, harmonious sort of stuff, you know, and you get used to it. And then so when someone does lose it, boom, you know, it blows you away. And then that's how Japanese people see it too, because they rarely experience somebody losing it either. So when it does happen, it blows them away, you know. So that's the first thing, is if you spend a long time in Japan, when someone does lose it, it'll blow you away. The other thing, probably the more important point, is we just have to do our best not to lose it. You know, just be cool and keep smiling and be patient, and just, you know, a lot of people hate these videos because they go, oh, I'm not being fake, I'm going to say what I really think. And of course you can do that. You know, the video recently about don't ask why, you know, there's people saying, oh, I'm going to ask why, I want to know. Okay, that's fine. You know, all these videos is, okay, look, this is what I've noticed. If I don't stay calm and cool and smiling and polite, if I don't do that, then there's bad waves that happen as a result. And it, you know, it's just, and because we're high profile, you live in a small town in Japan and you're a foreigner, you're high profile, everybody knows, you know, and if you're the guy that loses it, that's not going to do you a lot of good, you know. You're better off being the guy that is quiet and polite and nobody talks about, because he just blends in as best as possible. You know, that's better. That's better. So just from experience, you know, I've tried both ways. I've tried frustrating situations where I've been polite and calm and patient and gone, oh, I see, thank you very much. And I've also had times where I've gone, oh, for God's sake, you're faffing, you know, stop your faffing. And I've seen the results of both those reactions, and I'm telling you, the smiling, polite reaction is much better. It's much, much, much better. And this is with your Japanese co-workers or people that you think are your Japanese friends or Japanese family, or goes for everybody, right? It's just Japanese people in general. This works much better. And again, it's one of those maturity things. A lot of this stuff, this Japanese culture stuff, is quite mature. And if you applied it in other countries, it would work equally well, probably. Just that lots of people don't like it because it's hiding your real emotions, and that a lot of us come from cultures where hiding your emotions is not good. We want to show people how we feel, you know. But the results, I mean, if you're really focusing on the results, you know, if it's a good result you want, then it's better to be cool, you know. It seems that's the case. So anyway, that was that. Exploding people in Japan. Let's not do it. More videos coming soon.